believe this is what every artist's website needs. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, we're off to the right start already. What I'd like to do then is we'll start at my far left, and if each member of the panel could introduce themselves for a minute or two, and if you could please articulate what your website situation is right now, that will be helpful as well.
What, our website situation?
Sure, if you have one particular URL, let us know what it is.
Right.
If you build websites for others,
Your
let us know how many websites you have and what they do.
All right, this winging it thing is just great.
Let's go.
All right. My name is Beth Russell. I'm an attorney that practices primarily copyright and trademark, and I work with artists, musicians, and businesses that do e-commerce and social networking, a lot of web-based businesses. I forget the question again. It's he wants to know my webs. What do you want to know?
Oh, who are you?
Who are you?
And then
what have you got online?
That's who I am. I have two websites. My law practice, Russell Law, is www.erklaw.com, ERKLAW.com, and that's what I use to tell people, what my areas of practice are, a little bit about me, because frankly, clients want to know your background, especially for a lawyer. And Ruli Press is I do both of them by myself, by the way. And that's one of our questions on the panels. Like, do you hire someone to do it? Yes, you probably should. I haven't. But the Ruli Press website started out talking just about my book, but as I come up with other initiatives that aren't necessarily law practice, I do it there on that website, and having that website kind of enables me to pursue my other projects, and not necessarily as a lawyer. Like, for example, I'm starting an initiative because of the ASCAP situation to help small businesses are very frustrated with the fees that they have to pay to ASCAP and BMI, and I believe they can have an alternative to that if they license independent music from people like you directly. And I'm starting an initiative to hook them up, the independent musicians and the small businesses. So the other website allows me to do.
How do you spell Ruli?
It's the opposite of unruly.
Oh, okay.
RULY. So, rulipress.com.
Great. Moving on then. Introduction.
Great. I'm Jeanette Smith, and I have a company called Jeanette Smith Incorporated, and I do consulting, coaching, and teaching for artists and cartoonists, illustrators, photographers, anyone that has a creative bent that wants to build a business to the next level. So that's my area of expertise. I have two websites of my own, janettesmith.com, and I also have artlicensingcoach.com that both go to the same place. I'll be frank. And then also in partnership with Tom, we have brandingwithcharacter.com and charactermatters.net. So we have one site again and two addresses. And I have someone who helps me with back end of my website, but I do have content management capabilities, so I do the writing, the editing, the figuring out what goes here, pictures, all that stuff, and am right in the midst of tweaking it, and it's a big project, I understand that. So it takes a lot of time and dedication. Great.
Wow. And I'm Benji Hughes. I run a music company called Back Third Audio in Aurora, Illinois, which is about a half an hour west of here. My company is about connecting and serving musicians and people who love music. So as far as day-to-day, about half of my business is I'm based in a recording studio, so I do a lot of production work. And then I also have a wedding business where I basically take the musicians and we go out in the real world and play music for other people who need live music. So I book DJs. I front a wedding band called the Total Package. Actually, it's a band and DJ combo, which is why we call it the Total Package. And then I book some jazz combos and some other things too. A lot of different musicians that I meet. The more people I have in my stable, the more I can offer to brides. My web presence, I have three different websites. Backthird.com is the studio side, where I show people the studio and let them know what goes on there. TotalPackageWeddings.com is the wedding business side, where there's samples from the band and all of that kind of stuff. And then I also have a blog, which is at musicispeople.com. which just leads to a typepad blog that I update fairly regularly. And I'm actually in the middle of thinking through a redesign of my wedding website. I'm going to meet with my web designers next week on Tuesday and talk about that. So I can let you know as we go into some of the thought process that's gone into doing that redesign and what I'm looking to do. So if you check out my site this week, you'll see the old site. If you check it out in probably a month, you'll see the new site. So that'll be interesting.
Can I ask 2 vocabulary questions?
Sure.
What is content management exactly as you said it, and what is back-end website business?
Yes, please.
Content management, as I used it, is my web developer has a place on his website where I go in and have access to every page of my website. And I can look at the copy and change the words, find my own typos, correct them. I can also download photos into it, link to other websites, and actually, so that's why it's called content management. So it gives me the ability to not have to be feeding somebody else and paying them hourly to do all that work.
So a web developer in that case is a company or a...
Yeah, they actually designed it and they host it.
A host.
But
Thank you.
they're hosting it and allowing me to do what I call the content management. So that is the back end of the website,
Okay, thanks.
the part people don't see.
So let me ask you then, and keep in mind that this room is full of artists of all different stripes and disciplines. What is or what can be the value of a website for an artist, and how do they know if it's important for them? How do the folks in this room know if they should have a website? Benji, you want to give it a
Yeah, I can start. I am fairly confident in saying that you almost have to have a website. And I guess generally speaking, it is, first of all, it's a way to just let people find you, because at least, maybe it depends on your industry, but particularly the weddings, I'm marketing to brides, and the average age of a bride in Chicago, I think, is 27, 28 years old. So basically people in 20s up to maybe early 30s, and they're all getting online. That's usually the first place they look to find anything. So I have to have a web presence. So they want to just literally find me, and then also they want to be able to experience what I do. So have samples and be able to see photos and things like that to know what they're getting.
Even on the performing arts side where I live, I find that if you can't be Googled, you just don't exist. Even for actors at this point, have their own websites.
It's like a phone number used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally.
Yeah, I mean, people not only want to know how to contact you via a website, and that's why I try and push all people towards my own content and my graphical information, and just get a hold of you through the website. Then they don't have to remember your email address. They can just get that simple website. They can find you through it. People, just like they talk about employers snooping on MySpace or Facebook to see if you're a flake before they hire you, even before casting actors, people do a check for their websites and see what's there. So, and that Google factor is you can't be underestimated, really. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I agree. It's a indication of professionalism in many cases, and if someone, no matter what your genre, if someone is looking for you, they want to see for themselves a sample, not just of your work. Certainly they do want to see a sample of your work to the extent that that's possible, but they want to see how you present yourself. And your website is an indicator of that to your consumers. I think it's just vitally important. It's like, it's the image you wish to project. It's how, no less important than how you dress, how you speak, how you conduct yourself.
So if they don't have a website, or if they have a website they consider inadequate, or they just want to raise the bar, more and more we're seeing tools. I mean, anybody who watches the Super Bowl sees the GoDaddy ads, sees there's innumerable services that can help you build your website. Is that the way to go, or do I need to find somebody who makes websites and have them make my website for me?
I'll start with that since I'm the poster child for doing it incorrectly. Let's just get that right out there. Because I already admitted to you I did it myself. And my website, I think, is adequate, but it would be a different feel if I had a professional web designer do it. In my particular case, frankly, I don't want to look too slick. I want to look professional because I am, and I think it's professional enough. but the people that I work with aren't slick, and they aren't big industry stars or corporations, and I want to relate to them. So I don't, even though I'm laughing at myself, I don't think it's a terrible mistake in my part because it accomplishes my objectives. I think you need to evaluate who your audience is and what your objectives are, and that in part should drive that decision. It's very possible. I use network solutions for both of my websites, and they have very flexible, usable templates that, and Lord knows I am not an artist, but it's not awful, and it's, especially people like you with, that are artistic to begin with, you really can create something that is respectable looking. It has limits, and if that's not your objective, you absolutely need to hire a developer, but everyone's different.
Yeah, I think you should start with the name. Obviously you need to get the name registered and own it and make sure you don't give to a developer at any time. A lot of them ask for your name, the name of your website, and they register it for you and things like that, and don't do that. Register it yourself and make sure that you maintain the rights to that. So if you get your name or the name of your business and are lucky enough to do that, it's tough finding good website names these days. That's a challenge in and of itself, but it's really important. I think of the website as your online brochure. Just like, the website name is now like your phone number, this is the brochure you're not going to be printing possibly. And in fine art, you may still do printed pieces, but that web piece is still important. And yeah, you need objectives. You need to figure out why you have that website, who is going to be looking at it, and make sure that it talks to them. Because I think, and I do a lot of consulting and help people go through maybe making changes or updates or thinking through, what they want for their first website. And if you're not clear on that, no amount of navigation or good art is going to help. So if you have one audience, that's great, but if you've got two, make sure you make places for the different target audiences. So you might have a place on your website for galleries, and you might say illustration work, and then you might say licensing, and you really talk to the person who has kind of come to your website and let them know exactly what areas for them to make it easy.
I'll piggyback on that and add one more thing. Not only do you want to know who they are, but what do you want them to do when they come to your website? What's the goal? And all these questions you need to ask before you even build. For me, the goal of my wedding site is to get the bride to call me. Even though the web is a great place for her to find me and get a taste, I'm not going to book her online. She's not going to spend thousands of dollars on a wedding band because she liked their website. We have to talk. We have to have a personal relationship, and she has to meet the guy who's going to be at her wedding. So what I actually struggle with is how does she find me on the site, and how do I, as soon as I possibly can, get her to get away from the keyboard and pick up the phone. And so that's my goal, and I want to try and build a site that will make them want to call me and go the next step. For me, I definitely I hired somebody else to build the site rather than doing it myself, and I'll share a little bit of wisdom that I've learned on that too. You need at least two different sort of types of expertise when you're building your site. You need a designer who knows how to program it and make it look good. So maybe programmer and designer, but you also need a marketer. And the guys that I hired to build my site the first time made an incredible site that looked beautiful and was a pleasure to be at, and no one could find it because it was an all-flash site, and it doesn't get indexed by Google at all. So unless you meet me and you get a business card, or unless you see one of my advertisements, you never end up on my site. So you want to build your site from the ground up so that it'll show up on the search engines, so that it'll be found by as many people as possible. And those aren't design or programming skills at all, those are marketing skills. So you need to either become yourself or get in touch with people who know how to market on the web and how to do things that will cause your website to be found in the first place. Because if nobody sees it, it doesn't matter how good it looks. They don't know it's there.
And the term for that is optimization. And there are specialists that all they do is they help you take your website and fill it with keywords that make sense for your business. And I don't understand, I do not claim to understand it, but that's all they do is help you get higher and higher and higher up on the list on Google, Yahoo, Ask.com, all the search engines. So that is a really important element of website building, is to make sure that you have, people can find you when they're looking for your name, and it's your name is associated to your web address, and that you're Googleable.
You can take a look at how that works. Go to any website and click on View, and then when it drills down, click on Source, or in Firefox, I think it's Page Source, and that will reveal the meta tags, which is like the hidden text behind your site, and that's where optimization comes in that it also reveals like the code that makes your site run, but that's where they put in the magic words. And you know, when people enter search terms in the search engines, they look for those words in those meta tags, and in do-it-yourself ones, you insert those words yourself. You come up with the keywords that get put into your meta tags. One little legal thing that happens, sometimes nefarious competitors will put your trademark in their meta tags, so that when someone goes in and searches for your trademark, they get their website. So it's a good thing to go, and that's illegal and bad, and you need to take action against that. But you know, the reality is it's taking business away from you. So it's not a bad idea to go check the meta tags of your competitors.
Do I have any limits as far as how many meta tags and how many terms I can sort of embed there, or can I?
I think that depends
Really load it up.
on the service. And, you know, in a do-it-yourselfer like network solutions that I use, yes, there is a limit. It's a large limit. But if you're building it from scratch, I don't think there is.
So before, you know, in a moment we'll discuss if I'm going to build it. You know, what service do I use, or how do I go about building my own, or who do I approach to build my site for me? But Benji, you mentioned things that you need to do before you even start. So really, can any of you give us a thumbnail, a checklist of what questions I need to ask myself, or what I have to decide before I either build my own site or get someone to build it for me? What do I need to decide?
I think we threw out a couple already. Who's the client or the person that I'm trying to reach, and what do I want them to do after they come to my site? What's the result? And figure out a way, if you can, to measure that so that you know if your website's working or not. I got X amount of calls this month from people who said they'd seen my site. You know, that'll tell you if it's working or not. I'm just throwing ideas as they come to me. So anybody else?
So the things I need to do before I get that website built, things I need to think about or know.
Well, I think for you, this group may be doing local and regional, making local and regional steps as well as national. You know, so if you you may want to think about what other places you might want to be connected to, like a local art association, or things like that. So you might want to, before you call the designers and before you call the companies, think about some ways that people could find you and kind of make those calls and find out if you need to be a member or how that works. And also, how much of your work do you want to represent there? Is it pages and pages and pages because they need to see volumes, or again, what's the goal? Do you show a couple because you want them to call you, or come to your gallery, or come to your show, or come talk to you? So again, being very specific about what you want that site to do for you, and what you want people to think about while they're on there, and the action you want them to take, and all of this will lead to those conversations with the designers, which will have a lot to do with how do you organize it and what do you need to give them, and those are the next steps.
Yeah.
I think you want to be very choosy too. I know. You want to be very choosy about who you use as your designer, your developer, and your hosting service. And they may be three independent, they may be the same person, they may be three different companies, but you want to be absolutely sure that those are reputable companies willing to enter into written agreements with you for their services. The designer, as the creator of material, is going to own the copyright to everything there. You don't want that. You need to own the content that is your site, that is your identity. And it's perfectly reasonable for that to happen, but it will not happen unless you have a written assignment of that copyright. And designers will typically, the legitimate ones will be fine with assigning those rights to you after they're paid, and that is also legitimate. So a typical contract will say, upon payment in full, assign the copyright rights to you, and you have to make that happen. Otherwise, you have no control over the design of your site.
So how do I do that now? I've decided that someone else is going to design my site. I either need things that are beyond my ability, or I don't want to deal with it, or I know that the best way for me to do it is to hire someone else. How do I look for them? How do I find them? How do I know who the right person is? And how do I approach these contractual things and things I may not know about, or things I have to deal with up front? Jeanette?
Well, I think that one of the best ways to find somebody would be a referral, because I think that there are so many people out there doing it, and as Elizabeth said, they can either do one or three things. I mean, they can do all of it or part of it. But I think getting a referral from somebody that's been happy with what they've gotten and has really been happy with the service, because that's the bottom line. I mean, if your host goes down, then your website goes down. If you're getting your project up and running and they say it'll be ready in a month and it's ready in 6 months, you've lost 5 months worth of business. So the reliability, the ability to access them, the ability to work with them, all of those things are critical. And so associations are a great place. If you don't have somebody who knows somebody, you could certainly go to an association in your area. It doesn't have to be local, but of course that's a nice, kind of thing. And I think that what you need to watch is, if you're a little fearful of getting hosting, designing, and marketing, the optimization all in one package, you need to shop around, would be my other recommendation, is to really shop around and get comparison prices. And make sure that the comparisons are equal, because I remember I did this, and they all sent me their own proposals, and when I laid them on the table, there was no, I was like grapes, apples, oranges, So I wound up finally saying, okay, here's an email. These are the 3 things I want. These are the, and sending them all the same request, so I could finally get something back that, made sense to me, and that I could actually compare. So that's a start.
Maybe that goes back to things you should think about beforehand. But
Yeah.
if you want to compare apples to apples, you need to either be able to tell them, this is exactly what I want on my website. This is what I want it to do. Or you need to say, this is my budget, and these are the general goals. What can you do for that amount of money? And then you'll get a decent comparison.
Yeah, if you call them and brainstorm with them, you'll get a bill for brainstorming. If you go in and you're I kind of want this, and kind of want, what do you think of this? I mean, that's a, not going to be the most efficient way to do it. So yeah, I did go in with, my logo, photos, copy written, my idea, having looked at a whole bunch of websites. These are the buttons I think I want. These are the buttons I think I want. I mean, I knew I needed them to design it, but I went in with a plan, a draft. Wasn't perfect, but they were then able to help me make it a little better. But I still had done my homework.
Can I throw out one other idea too, which is that websites are different from brochures in that the internet is dynamic. So your website is going to change. You're gonna change it, next year, or maybe in 6 months, or maybe you're gonna update it every other day. And that's something to think about before you do it, is how often do I want to update it. But the whole way that life works on the internet is people are constantly looking to have something new. And if you want your website to be successful, you need to be able to update it and add new things. Google will notice when there's new content on your website. Google will perk up and pay attention, and you'll go higher in the listings. And people will notice. You'll give people a reason to come back to your site if that's something that you do. So you probably want to talk with your web designer about what's, first of all, recognize that this is a relationship with this person. You're probably going to hire them multiple times to do things. Or maybe you're going to talk about what's our ongoing relationship going to be so that I can make updates. Or maybe you're going to have them build some back-end type of stuff so that you can make your own updates, which is what I've done with some of my sites.
And they still need to be around, because content management doesn't mean that you don't have questions. So, I'm still on the phone with them, like going, I tried this and it didn't work. You really need to know that they're going to be there for you. So that's important.
So
do they charge you every time you pick up the phone?
So what can you expect that you would have to pay for a design? We've got 3 people we're looking for: a designer, developer, and hosting service.
I would expect probably a couple thousand. I spent $3,000 on my wedding site because it's got a little bit of flash, which is going to be a lot more expensive because it's like sitting down and programming a movie. And it's got a built-in MP3 player where you can listen to music and stuff like that. So if you're doing some media-oriented stuff like that, I'd expect in the thousands. If you're just throwing up simple HTML pages, it can be a lot more affordable. Which is why, again, because all you need to do is stick them up. That's why the blogs are free, because they just built a template, and now it's really easy to add content. What takes time is the design and programming movies if you're doing Flash and things like that.
Jeanette, you have a dollar figure?
About 2,000 is I think what I spent, and I think 1,000 to 2,000 for a design and getting it up. I think that if you want that back end function, to be able to change it, it might add a little. It'll add a little bit to that.
And is the back end function something that you pay maintenance fee on?
No, that was part of that might, see, I didn't go with the Flash, but I went with the back end, so I probably wound up about 2,500 total, but I wanted this to be a website that everybody could get to. I didn't want Flash or bells and whistles, or, you know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that if you were using your grandmother's PC, you could get to my site and still read my phone number and get the gist of who I am. So that was, so, I'm thinking, something very basic for $1,000, something pretty nice for $2,000. I think I pay $18 every 3 months for hosting, yeah. So we're all kind of in the same, we've shopped around. These are pretty decent prices. So, and the designer, I own what they did, and I'm happy to have the back end ability, even though I don't change it, often. Now I'm seeing that it's going to need to, because my website needs have just started changing now that I'm actually taking webinar reservations and credit cards, which is I didn't do that for 3 years. So that's changing the needs of my website, big time.
Right here. If I do go it alone, if I'm building my own, how do I do it?
You did.
Where do I?
You go to GoDaddy. Let's just get concrete here.
Yeah. You first of all, you need to register your domain. That's
Okay.
the first thing. Everybody knows what a domain is, right? Hosting
And
basics.
design.
There's a computer sitting somewhere that is that hosts my website. Mine is in California, and that's who I'm paying. For me, it's like $100 a year, and they have the data is sitting on that computer. It's plugged into the internet all the time. So anybody in this room goes to my website, it downloads the info from that computer. How does it know to find that computer? My domain name is registered. So when you type in backthird.com, the first thing your computer does is it goes to the registry and it finds out which computer in the world is associated with backthird.com, and it gives them the address of the host in California, and then it goes to the host and gets the information. So if you're trying to put a website online, you need a host somewhere, and then you need to upload your data to that host, and then you need to have the domain name that you registered. You need to set it up in the domain name registry so that all the computers in the world know that that domain name is associated with that host, and your hosting company will be able to show you how to do that.
And not just your
myname.com
domain,
or-
but the sound-alikes and the spell-alikes, as many as you can afford, so that
Around it.
other squatters and advertising sites don't come and register that around you and divert traffic for people that think they're going to your site. They're going to end up on advertising sites.
But don't you have to go to a company to get registered?
You can do that. You do that yourself.
Yeah, you do that yourself. On GoDaddy, you just do it.
At GoDaddy.
With one of these representatives?
Yeah, I mean, GoDaddy
Yeah.
is a company that'll register for you.
Or
I do it through
Social
hostway.com.
Solutions, or,
Yeah,
They're
there's
called
a ton of them.
registrars.
Mhm.
but they're usually host companies also, right?
They can be, not necessarily.
But you can, you can
GoDaddy.
just register with them and use them as search engines to brainstorm your names, to find out if what you want is taken.
Well, here's the thing on that,
Burning
though.
questions all throughout this
A
room.
recent trend is that if you're not prepared to purchase, don't search until you're ready to buy your domain,
Right.
because the other registrars monitor your searches, and they see that you're interested in that, and then they buy them. And it's not that you can never get them, but they're going to charge you more for it. So if you do a search, be ready to buy it right then.
It is not very much money. I do GoDaddy. I have 3 websites through them, 1 for myself and 2 for shows. And the domain name and the domain name itself, I spend more on Starbucks in 2 weeks than I spend all year on all these.
$8.95 a
Yeah.
year, isn't it?
Yeah, so
I pay $7.25.
Yeah.
really, you
So yeah, for a year.
assemble a domain portfolio.
And the longer you buy it for, the less it costs. So you can buy it for five years if you want. You know, it's less per year.
When you were saying buy yours and similar ones, do you like have those similar ones also lead to your site? I mean, is that what you're doing when you buy?
Yeah,
all the
like
similar
I
ones?
might do janettesmith.com, jeanettesmith.com, jeanettesmith.net, janetsmith.net. I mean, if they misspell my name, I better, kind of figure out what, if you have a specific spelling to the title of your company that's a little off, get the other one if you can, things like that.
And then they all just go to your site?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they all
you'll-
go to the same place.
You'll log in with your registrar and you'll look for an option somewhere that says domain name forwarding, and you can set it up so that janetsmith.net forwards to your main website or whatever.
Okay, next. That was pretty thorough.
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
So then what? You get your domain,
Mhm.
and you decide you want to do an art website, and you want to have a certain number of pictures, and you want to categorize your work into 3 sections, and that's about all you know.
You kind of get your plan together
Right.
of what you want, and you know your objectives,
Sort of.
and what you want the website to do for you when people go to it. You have some copy ideas, you have some content ideas, okay? Then you
Are you
would-
talking do it yourself or go to a designer
Do it yourself.
developer?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but the way I ended up doing it was somebody owed me some money, and they had some skills, so I had them get it started and get my domain name, and I've got it up there right now in little bits and pieces, and it's sort of getting there, and they're gone. And what's next? I mean, I'm just, I think that you often, as an artist, first you have your images, you believe in your images, you love your images, you understand your images, you can talk about certain things, so you have some copy, but that's about all you have at first, and you have no experience. So you get out there and you start trying stuff. So I'm just trying to use that as an example for everybody to ride the boat with.
So if they're doing it themselves, what would you say if they have an idea of what they want and they want to try doing it themselves? What would you
Well,
say?
I would say I'm a fan of I have not used GoDaddy as a design template for myself. I use Network Solutions, and I'm very happy with it. I get 100 pages for I think I pay like $100 a year for the whole thing. I mean, you're going to be paying for developers and designers. You're going to be paying way more than that every month. And 100 pages is a lot of space. You can, and I find that to be a really good thing, because like on my Really Press site, I use a different page. There's not much on it. It's very clear what you do on that page and why that page exists. And it's a few sentences, and people, attention span's not a problem. You get the message. You want to know something else? Click to another page. And I'm a fan of that.
With Network Solutions and GoDaddy, which are the 2 biggest providers, you can register your domains. You can buy the name and the rights to it for X number of years out. You can also pay for the hosting, so the fact that they will put your site on the internet. They also have design templates, some things like Website Tonight, and they have, and they're reasonably user-friendly, and you click around, and in an hour you can have a fairly decent basic website. Now, really depending on what art form you're in, again, if you're in a more visual art, you probably need a slicker website with more stuff. For me, as with maybe it was Elizabeth, there's a degree to which I should not have too slick a site. I need to look like a sort of a smarty pants starving artist on some level and not too commercial. But that is not true certainly for all the people in the room. So those templates there are how to design the site. You pick the colors, you pick the shape, click, 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 click. It's really children could and have done it. Is that true of your hosting service as well? Do they have any design templates?
They might. I didn't even seriously look at those. If I was thinking template and I just wanted, if I were an artist who was more marketing myself as an individual rather than a company or a group or something, I would seriously consider just doing a blog, because you can do that for free. They show up really well at the search engines. And I would rather, as a consumer, I would rather go to a TypePad or a WordPress blog that I know is going to be reasonably well laid out, than to somebody who did DIY and did a bad job. And they've got that, the little annoying letter that's opening itself and dancing around the screen and things like that.
What's DIY?
All your vocabulary.
Do it yourself. I'm sorry.
And then before that, you said something I didn't understand.
Yeah, I named a couple of different. Do you know what a blog is?
Yes.
Okay. There's a couple of different blog services you can check out. WordPress.com. WordPress is free. Verb, V-I-R-B, is a great one, which is just a place to assemble lots of different media. You can put video and audio and pictures and all kinds of things.
Is that .com?
Yeah, VIRB.com.
Oh, I.
VIRB, yeah, Verb. WordPress Blogger is a site that's owned by Google that's real common. I personally feel like Blogger is a little more geared towards individuals than businesses. I would be inclined to go more towards one of the others if I wanted to look like a business. Or I use typepad.com, Typepad. Typepad they may have a free program, most of them are paid, but they're very cheap. I pay, I think, $90 a year.
So these are a preset template.
Yeah, they're
So
preset
you can't
templates.
really mess it up.
They're really easy to update, and you choose from a lot of different templates. But the whole point of a blog is that you're going to continually add posts. You're going to add a new post every day, which is I sit down and I type. I upload a photo and I type however many paragraphs I want, and I go post, and there it is on the internet that day. So I can do it 10 times a day or once a month or however often I want to do it. It just gets plugged into that template.
On one of the main pages of my purchased websites that I have there to sort of look like a business, if you want to see descriptions of some of my minor works, I have them linked to blogs where I've put descriptions and forces of those shows and a few pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas I want to spend some money and look more like a business on the main page, if people are drilling down into one particular short play or something they want to read about it, it goes over to some free site that I've set up sort of on the cheap. That's very simple.
I kind of have the same approach. For me, backthird.com and totalpackageweddings.com are where I want you to go first if you've never heard of my company, and you'll sort of experience my brand there with all the lights and the whiz bang and the photos and the music. And then once you've sort of seen us and gotten the idea of what we do, and sort of read the brochure, then to have an ongoing relationship, you're going to go to my blog, and that's where you're going to see this is what I did this week, this is what I did this week, and you're going to get more sort of the relationship side of things. So that's why I do both.
I think Benji raises an excellent point in that no one expects me to look like an artist because I'm not. That's not what I do. So using the template is fine as long as it's clean and accomplishes the objective. That might not be the case for you. If what you're doing is conveying your creativity and originality, plugging yourself into a template might not be the answer. You might do better hiring a developer or a designer.
Except I would make one exception to that, probably more. But one would be if you use a very clean template and you keep it very simple so that your art, whatever you do, choose to download there. You don't need a template that has stripes and squiggles and, that their designer cranked out.
Right.
I come to so many people's websites because people ask me to go on and we'll talk about it, and but the thing is, I'm like, where's your art? I mean, I'm lost because you tried to be the web designer or you picked too complex of a template or whatever, or the images are too small. I'd rather have one big image and then go to another page and get another one. Like she was saying, small amount of copy. I do this myself. I'm putting too much copy on each page. I gotta change that. Because you're right. You need bigger images, small amount of copy, do more pages rather than less, and make sure that it's really clear that the options of where to go. So because not only can you lose somebody on that first page because it's ugly, the art isn't photographed well, or something like that, you can lose them because the navigation isn't clear as to where they should go to get what they want. Is your phone number on that front page if that's what you want them to do? Or is a testimonial there about, that you show up or whatever's important to you. You got that minute to catch them on the front page, and if they don't know where to go next or get what they want, you probably lost them in a click. So if you can't do that, your website, I'm sorry to say, but your website that's kind of together but not really, and is probably doing you more harm than good.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the faster you get it figured out, the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like this woman said earlier, that's something that you can do, right? You could go through GoDaddy and get a basic, clean template, and then later, if you have more money or you're going to web design,
yes.
you can redo it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
And I think the clean template, I think the templates are great if they're clean and you don't try to overdo it. I think I think I'd rather have you spend money on getting your art photographed well, digitally, done well, and even go with a really clean, color and simple and not try to dazzle me with your flash animation
Right,
and
just have it up
and-
there, available,
yeah.
clean,
Yeah.
smooth,
You aren't necessarily going to get that template off. You're not going to if you leave that service. Certainly you'll have your own content, the files that you've uploaded,
right.
but you're not going to take that template and migrate it to another host.
You'll start from scratch when you,
You will start
need to
from
leave
scratch.
that
With a lot
template.
more experience under your belt. Way to tell
You
But
will,
still
but
have-
if you're
You
working
still
with
have
an
your domain, you just don't have the template or,
yes, and as Jeanette said, let's just underscore this again, always register your own domain, don't let somebody else do it for you. But if you do work with an independent, separate, like not do it yourself, designer, developer, then you can, if you provide for this in your contract, you can take all those files with you and go to another host, and that's something you need to negotiate for.
Ruth, over here.
Having bought a domain name through Yahoo, so I'm paying lots more. I bought two. So can I undo that? Can I go to GoDaddy or One Network Solutions and
You can transfer.
purchase my own name again through somehow
Would
they
you
have
ever do
it
this?
set up so I
You
can
can do that anytime, they love it, they love it when you transfer,
But you can move the same domain name over.
yes.
But it's the same, yeah.
If I don't want to use templates and I want to do my own website, what's a good software to use?
Good question.
Dreamweaver is the
I've heard,
software of choice.
Yeah.
thank you for your help. I've heard that, and so I'm glad to have a confirmation.
Dreamweaver is what Lois
Which
drew
has
up.
been purchased by Adobe now. They own the Macromedia products. It's Adobe. It's part of the Adobe Creative Suite, which has different formats of the design grid and so forth.
I use something called Adobe Contribute, which is sort of an in-between. My designer set me up a template, and then I can edit it using Adobe Contribute. I have a password that I log on, and it's sort of like, it's very primitive design, but you don't have to know anything. It's sort of like laying something out in Microsoft Word, and then just saying, put this on my website, and it throws it up as a web page. So that's kind of in between too.
This is sort of going back a little bit, but you were talking about, like, I don't have enough money to even pay $1,000 for a web designer, but I need to have video on my site. Now, I know I can do that on MySpace, but let's say I really want a name that's associated with me beyond like such and such at MySpace. Would you say like buy a domain name and have it linked to my MySpace account or something like that? Or how would you deal with, I mean, I can't.
Actually, from what we've talked about today, I mean, if you get a domain name from GoDaddy, and then you go on or from Network Solutions, and you go on Network Solutions and you do their template, which you said isn't expensive.
No, that's
You
the
know.
whole package, about $100 a year.
And I can do
$100.
that with video on my site.
Right, well, what you're gonna do then is you're gonna link to whatever you put on YouTube or MySpace,
Okay.
and so it will appear up on that. That's what a lot of people are doing now. They're not creating their websites with the media interfaces. They're just, linking to
places
YouTube.
that do it for free, okay.
Yeah,
But the domain name still has to have at least one page to do that.
yes,
To
exactly.
provide the link.
Yeah, 1 page, 3 page, whatever, something really simple, and then you can show them your video.
You can map your domain name to a blog too. You
Yeah.
can, you just use the forwarding so that domain name that you registered for $8 a year forwards to your blog, and then your blog can have YouTube videos on it all the way down the page,
And pictures and stuff.
and then whatever else.
I also was curious, two other questions. One is how large an image, or how do you protect your images? I understand low resolution, but you want a large enough image to see, and how do you protect them from being stolen, sort of taken and just used?
The first question was protecting the work that's posted on there. And let's face it, there are never gonna be any 100% guarantees. It's not gonna happen. There are technical measures you can take, and that's something that a developer, a designer can advise you on, like right-click protections, like encryption, watermarking, especially in visual art you can be kind of tricky. I mean, because watermarks can be defeated as well, but you might want to be artistic and hide your watermark as part of the art, and the people who can defeat it might not even notice that it's there. I mean, do what you're best at and be artistically creative. and protect, you know, the rights you have to your work. But there just aren't going to be guarantees that your work isn't going to be taken. If your work appears online, it's there for one of two reasons. One, you put it there, or two, a thief did. And if the thief did, they probably got it because you put it online in the first place. So it's going to happen, and you have to be as prepared as you can.
Do you talk to the host about right-click encryption and watermarking? How do you find that information?
The right-click
The
encryption, yes,
Okay.
for the host, but the watermarking would be who's ever uploading the photos onto your website. So if that's the design team, or if you're doing them yourself, then you need to do it, and I don't know how that's done.
I don't know technically. I did like some preliminary research, and if you just put like into a search engine like free software encryption, you'll get results that will lead you to sources where you can get affordable products that will help you do that.
If you're familiar with Photoshop, there's a way to put some
Makes sense
embedded
that there would be.
information.
Sure.
Find
Yeah,
out
that
if
makes
your
sense.
Okay.
Work is being used elsewhere.
Also, you know, websites use 72 DPI for the resolution. That's pretty standard. And, you know, that's not, I mean, you're right, somebody can take a picture that you've done off of your website and go post it someplace else by right-clicking, but they're not going to go print a brochure with a 72 DPI or do any kind of, you know, fantastic printing with that. So I think that if you do that and a watermark, you got a pretty good combination. And then obviously if you want to add to that some of the other, you know, web encryption kind of things, that might add another level of protection. But again, you know, our ideas are out there for the taking too. I mean, it's not like if you're, you know, really into one style of art and somebody says, that's great, I could do that. I mean, you know, it's a choice you have to make and you have to get comfortable with. That's part of being in business.
Secondly, personal privacy. I mean, you guys, you especially are in, well, you all are in the public view. Well, all of us would be.
Yeah.
It's a very public place, and you have trouble with, well, maybe not stalkers, but I mean, annoying people or stalkers. I mean, anybody, maybe I've read too many murder mysteries, but, you know.
Let's maybe
is there a problem
answer
with
this
that?
as far as keeping your identity safe, your address, your information safe. You know, what can be cracked, what can be taken. How do we protect ourselves when we go about this?
As to personal privacy, you know, common sense. I mean, we're in business. We do post our business information because we need people to know how to contact us. You know, all I can say is exercise common sense. You know, you don't necessarily post your home, or if you work at your home, you know, perhaps you get a P.O. box, have a separate phone number for business purposes.
Yeah, that'll help you just with life as well, because I don't necessarily want to get business phone calls at noon on Sunday, you know. So
Yeah.
the business phone gets turned off, and I only answer the personal phone when I'm not at work.
And
There was a Variety article just a few months ago about actors putting too much personal information on their websites. They want to be contacted, but really you need to just, you know, push all that traffic to one either your agent if you have one, or one
phone,
one email address or one phone. But people just go, you know, knee jerk, put where they live or something, and you know, not so good.
A related issue, though, is actually spam. If you post your email address on there, and you know, engines scour for what looks like an email address with a little @ sign. So a trend, most people now, they won't put their full email address with the @ sign. They'll like put the first part and then write out the word @ because everybody knows what that means, but it's not going to show up and cause spam. Or don't put it on at all and just make people contact you by filling out a form. I don't love that because people want to write you a message and they want to know that it's going directly. It's an option, but I would say personally let them somehow know what your actual direct email address is, but write it out to avoid spam.
And
there's also the CAPTCHA, CAPTCHA forms, which computers somehow can't read because the letter or the number is going this way or that way, or it's big, distorted.
So that you know it's a real person,
Right.
not a machine
Right.
sending the email. Yeah, that's a security measure.
Got time for one more question. Yes.
Are you surprised at how ignorant we are?
No.
No, I just was wondering.
A lot of us may be feeling overwhelmed right now. There are every level of accessibility and every level of cost is available for your website. Probably the most important thing is getting something clear and coherent and professional up, having a presence,
Do
and
you
keeping it
see,
simple.
do you see the websites becoming obsolete eventually? I mean, what's the next thing?
Oh, boy.
You know, I just wonder. It just keeps.
There'll be something that is like a website.
I wouldn't say obsolete, but mobile phone technology is taking
It'll
over.
be this big,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it'll be around, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that's funny is that it's all interconnected on the web. So I might have a great website, but they might still go find my personal MySpace page and read my comments to my friends instead of looking at my wedding band site. So you kind of have to be aware that it's all out there and it's all connected. And when you put it on the internet, it's there forever. So
It is literally there forever. It's archived. If you want to see pages from a website from behind, and I do this all the time in trademark research, the Wayback Machine will show you from, seriously, when the website started, and you can look at every page. It's archived. It will not go away,
Wow.
which is good and bad.
And on that ominous note, if we could have a